Warning. This podcast is about to open the sealed section of spirituality.
Hey you, yeah you, we see you, you divine human being.
And we are calling you to come home.
We are ready to talk about the real shit. We're going to get real about life as a divine human being.
The good, the not so great, spirituality and taboo. Divinely Human is the podcast that's all about what it means to be human in a spiritual context.
We know it's not just about being spiritual, it's about being human too.
And that means changing poopy nappies and channeling angels.
Sometimes even at the same time. It's time for us to stop making other people's noise our own soundtrack of life.
Let's make some waves together so that we can all ride them together and create deep resonance, a sense of home in this crazy world.
Pour yourself a coffee
Or a glass of wine if that's your potion.
and sit down with your new favorite spiritual sisters
As we go on a journey together into what it means to be
a divine human being.
on this spiritual journey.
Welcome back to the Divinely Human podcast. Hello, 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 everybody.
Hello.
You all know who we are by now.
Hopefully.
So, I mean, we don't even really need to do that. Let's just be different. Welcome to this space. It has been, I feel like we haven't sat down for ages, but at the same time, it was literally a week ago, so I don't know what I'm talking about, but time has been so weird for me the last week. But we are keen to dive into it. I mean, we're nearly at the end of the year almost. It's almost November. Wow.
Yeah, big breath. Big deep breath.
If that's not overwhelming, I don't know what is, because I feel like I blinked in about March, April, and now we're here. So many things to be thinking about when it comes to, you know, the end of year with business, like in this kind of business. It's like a bittersweet thing for me. I don't know about you, but I feel it's a bit bittersweet. It's like, yay, get to take a break, but at the same time, I always get like, I love the connection at the same time. How do you feel?
I feel very similar to you, but for me, things like ramp up at the end of the year. Usually middle of the year, I'm like, okay, it's like middle of the year. I like have to start getting things going. And then by the end of the year, I feel like I'm scrambling to like finish old projects and get things out of the door. And then I'm like trying to think about the next year. And then things pop up, like I just got a promotion, which means that I'll be having limited time in my business, which is awesome. Like promotion side, awesome. But also now I really have to put my strategic planning hat on and really start to embody that type of energy in my business, because otherwise I know that I am just going to feel 10 times more scattered, and I really have to be a little bit smarter. So that's kind of where I'm at now, is I want to be smarter with my business and the way that I'm managing my energy. But I also really want to leave room for that creative energy to come through, because I don't know about you, but for me, when I'm in like planning and strategy mode, that creative aspect of myself isn't always turned on to its fullest capacity. And I know that I have to leave room. Otherwise, I don't get into that creation mode as easily, you know?
Yeah, I feel that. And it's a really great way to explain it, actually, because I haven't been able to put words to that. But that's the feeling. It's that limbo of trying to balance it out and making sure that you don't let go of the reins of creativity altogether. But I love that. I really love that about just being smarter with time and like, you know, our own energy as well. I think in a sense, that's definitely something that I'm bringing forward into next year. And I've found like this year has been such a experiment for me business wise. I feel like I've just been living in these extremes, like limbo of feeling like I have nothing left to give, feeling exhausted, overworked, taking too much on, not having boundaries. And then other times I'm like, I'm going to see what it's like to enforce really strong boundaries and like cut down work and do this and do that. So it's like this seesaw of me trying to figure it out. Like it's like that with everyone, but at the same time, I guess, to be honest, I hoped that I would have it worked out by now, but I don't. But going forward into next year, it is something that I'm way more clear on now. I think I'm kind of at the end of that teething process. So I'm keen.
Yes, I think it's really important that you share that, not just like for yourself, but for everybody. Because I think we have it in our minds that we're meant to have it all figured out, and we have to have like a solid plan in place for our business to run smoothly and effectively and successfully. And the truth is, like, when we work in such an intuitive and energy-based business, the truth is it's always going to fluctuate depending on what season we're in. And I remember we were voice noting a couple of months ago, and we were both just like, our motto for the end of the year is just like, fuck it. Like, whatever we're going to do, we're just going to go with it. And I'm like ready to take that into 2023, but with maybe more of a, like, more knowledge around what that actually means. And I think this year has definitely been a year of experimentation. I don't know about you, like, I've seen you change so much and your business like just evolve so much. I'm really intrigued and excited to see how we alchemize that in 2023, because I feel the same.
Yeah. And it's also really interesting. There's a lot of other people in this space too that I've noticed are going through a very big rebirth in their business structure for next year. So I wonder, like, collectively, what's been the initiator for everyone, because it's a huge theme that I'm seeing is everyone is like, actually, this is kind of what I want to do, but it's not really what I want to be doing, you know, and then changing it and like having new things being birthed and restructuring, you know, how they're showing up. So I wonder, I'm so curious to see what the initiator has been for that for people.
Yeah, I wondered too, because you're right. Like, we're so not alone in feeling like this. And I think there's been some major lessons that have come out of this year, like major lessons. And I know that next year you're going to bring some more, but I feel like this every year with business, that I have my feet kind of rooted a little bit more firmly. And then I find the beginning of the year, things kind of shift and change still. And that's something that I'm trying to be more aware of, is the fact that it will change and it will evolve, and we can't always control that. Like, coming off the back of our conversation last week or the week before around controlling success, I think it's really hard to not control that aspect of business. But yeah, I'm excited. What's one of your biggest lessons that you've learned in business this year?
Oh, wow. Oh my goodness. I feel like I could honestly write a novel or like a lessons in business for dummies, like a volume for this. One of the biggest things that, oh my goodness, I feel like I want to share two things. Yeah. The first thing, the first thing that rolls just off the tip of my tongue as soon as that you ask that question is cutting away from, how do I vocalize this? Cutting away from almost like the current in this space and just having like trust in my own path and not almost like disassociating myself from what everyone else is doing, giving a shit about what everyone else is doing, you know, because I've done so much shadow work around that this year, particularly because I noticed last year, one of my big things that really upset me was that I felt like I was still at that place where I was like comparing myself constantly. And like, even if it was just like going and seeing like who I felt like my competitors were, and I would be like, oh, it looks like they're doing so well. Like, I'm happy for them, but like, why aren't I doing that? And why aren't I growing as fast as that? And this year I've really like kicked that in the ass big time. And I'm like, I don't even really look at what anyone else is really doing unless it's like posted in my face and I'm supporting it, liking it, you know, cheering my sisters on. But that is one, probably the biggest thing that I've learned this year is just to cut away from that and just do you. Don't feel the pressure to do what anyone else is doing. And the second thing is boundaries. I feel like this year I've had a big lesson in boundaries and not to allow people to take. Like, I have control over who has access to me. I think the word access has been like my slogan this year, you know, because prior to this year, I've kind of just left myself open. So I'm like, I will let you in when I have the capacity to. So
I love that. You really taught me about breaking away from the trends too, and that trust element. I remember when we started the DH Instagram page, one night I was like stressing over like when to post it and like what audio to put it with. And you were like, why even bother? Like, it will find people like when it's meant to, and the right people will see it. And I was like, oh, like, it was such a breath of relief. So I can attest to you really learning that lesson, because you really did teach me that. And it's true. To be able to stand out in business, you kind of have to be courageous and willing enough to step away from the trends and where it's safe. And we see this now with, you know, the reels and the TikTok movements and all of the things. It kind of just gets lost in the crowd a little bit. And that's something that you really, really taught me. So thank you for sharing that lesson.
Okay. I'm interested to see how you've traveled through and what you've learned, like what your big lessons have been as well.
I think for me, you know, this lifetime is going to be a lifetime of stepping deeper into my own identity. And that really is deepened through every year of business. But this year specifically, it's been more about understanding who I am inside my business and who I am outside of my business. I learned a lot of lessons around losing friendships and kind of losing myself outside of my own business. And so creating that separation has been really important for me this year. So much so that I went through a period of like only identifying as a soulful entrepreneur, as a space holder, as a reader, all of these things. And I kind of created my whole business this year around myself. And only recently it's really come into my realization that this is so much bigger than me. And while I'm still so much a part of the movement and the mission of the business, it has to kind of transcend my own ego and my own like desire to just be known as this. I think something that I'm always kind of grappling with is, who am I? And so this has been a really big year around understanding that in all of the different contexts.
Yeah. I wonder if, the first thing that just came to mind is, do you have anything like in your chart that identifies with like you kind of maybe struggling with identity and stuff like that? Like, is there any markers in there? I'm so curious.
Oh yeah, I've got heaps. So like, I've got Scorpio, my ascendant, Dark Moon Lilith in my first house, Chiron in my first house, Pluto in my first house, and Juno in my first house.
Nice little stelly in the first house there.
Yeah, so a lot of lessons, right? And Pluto is all about evolution, and so is Scorpio. They're so deeply connected. So I'm always on this transformation journey just in my own identity and how I show up in the world. But Chiron sitting there is really interesting, because I always think, I remember when I was learning about Chiron and one of my teachers shared this story with me. She said, I saw a Chiron placement of a woman who was actually like a fertility facilitator. And so she would help hundreds and hundreds of clients get pregnant, but she could never get pregnant. like she hadn't yet found that relationship, and then she found out she couldn't actually conceive. And so that's the energy of of Chiron a lot of the time, right? It's this like, it's your gift to the world, but it's something that you are constantly kind of internally struggling with. Yeah. And so that's like me with identity all the time. It's like I can really see other people for who they are, but it's really hard for me to be able to reflect that back to myself.
And you also enable other people to connect really deeply with their own identity. Yes. Like, it's so funny when you think about it, but it's also so beautiful at the same time. I was just going to say, my Chiron's in Leo, and I can really empathize with that as well, because one thing that I struggle with is, has been putting myself in the forefront and being seen. But so funny, because I have a whole community of people like constantly saying, oh, like, because you shared this, I had the confidence to do that, or, I feel really motivated to like, speak my truth now. And I'm like, wow, that's literally something I have struggled with my whole life. And it's something that I'm just healing every single day, is being seen and feeling worthy enough to be heard. And in this space, I deal with a lot of like, I don't know, like I feel unworthy, and I'm like, I don't understand why. Even myself, like my logical brain is like, why? That's so stupid. But it's that placement, and it just kind of seeps in. So it's really cool as well. Like, we're both healing it, but we're also both helping so many people step into those energies, which I love, Chiron. I think that it's just everywhere. It's so funny. I feel like it's really kind of demonized in a way in astrology, but I find it to be one of the most beautiful placements to work with.
Yeah, I agree. And I find that so many of the lessons that tie in with your Chiron placement actually help both you and your business actually succeed and create that impactful transformation in the world. And that's why I think, we all hold so many doubts about ourselves, but the truth is, like, we can't let that hold us back from doing what we want in business. And I think it's really interesting being able to look at this placement and then hear somebody else say to you, like, you've given me this transformation, or you've supported me in this evolution. And you're like, oh, thank God I just courageously went after what I wanted, even though it was so almost painful or scary to hold as I went through that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it does take a lot of courage to step into that. But I find that every time you do kind of push past that bandwidth, with that Chiron placement and where it is in that energy, you feel a little piece of yourself like come home to yourself almost. Yeah. And kind of, it's like watching a puzzle just come back together, like you're healing yourself piece by piece every single time you kind of push into that energy, as uncomfortable as it is. God help me.
Yes, literally. And I love that Chiron's like a little key too. It truly is about unlocking your gifts and really turning your shadow into gold. It's a really awesome placement. But
yeah. Hence why they do. No one talks about the fact that the symbol is literally a key.
Yeah.
Like, no one ever talks about that. I'm like, well, that's telling you something.
Yeah, massively, right? Literally the key to everything that you want to know. Just out.
Yeah.
Yes, I love it. Something that I've loved doing too is like looking at where it is in my business too. Because when you look at where Chiron is in your business, or even in like products and services, you can see not only like how your business may struggle to communicate, but actually has like those gifts and that other side of it too, which is really awesome.
That is so fascinating.
Right?
And then you could almost mix the energy of your personal Chiron placement into your business Chiron placement and see like what you really need to like push towards.
Yeah. It's cool.
Wow. That's really interesting.
Yeah, I think so.
No.
I know, right? What's something that you're going to change coming into 2023?
something that I'm going to change. I feel like, I know we've spoken about this before, but just the way that I show up, I feel like this is really seem vulnerable to say on here, I guess, but I feel like I give too much and don't exchange enough.
Yeah.
Still, I feel like we spoke about this probably on like the second episode or something of this podcast. That's what I'm like, still. I think that my time will change a lot next year, and how I show up in terms of what I'm exchanging. Obviously, you know, I just like I've released a whole heap of new readings, but I'm kind of charging or exchanging 1/3 of like what they're actually worth, and then I'm working myself to the bone, and I'm just already have felt like a bit of like disappointment in myself for not seeing my own worth and what I'm bringing through for people. So that's gonna be changing next year.
Yes.
But also one-to-one stuff, I'm feeling like we need to be communicating and just coming together, especially women coming together and bringing through our wisdom together and just being in more of a community together. So I think I'm going to be trying to sort of implement more group work settings instead of just one-to-one all the time. So interesting.
Yeah, that's exciting. And you've had some really good ideas around that too. I'm excited to see like what actually wants to seed from that.
It will be interesting to see where, the seeds fall there and what blooms. I'm interested to know how you are planning this next year that we have on the horizon. After you just had gotten a promotion at work, which is amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You work so hard, honestly. So what's your game plan with your business, and like how are you feeling into organizing it all now around the new schedule and stuff?
I'm feeling slightly overwhelmed and excited. And this promotion has come up like multiple times, the opportunity to take it. And I've kept ignoring it, was like pushed it to the side and finally just accepted it. And I actually feel so much of a sense of relief, which it kind of also feels like I'm letting down my business in a way because I'm taking away that time. And that's something that I've really been working on the past couple of days since I got the promotion, is realizing that the time that I actually put into my business does not equal the value or the impact that it has by any means. And that's something that I'm going to have to continue to remind myself next year, because I'm literally doubling the amount of time that I'm putting into my corporate job. And that's obviously being kind of just taken away a little bit from my business. So what I'm going to be doing is streamlining even more. I'm actually going to just be completely diving into the Akashic Records and being that, I almost want to say like go-to person for the Akashic Records. And this is something that I've also ignored for a long, long time from my own guides anyway. And it's really given me that push to dive in. So streamlining in the sense of letting go of the things that actually aren't truly aligned with my mission, not just my ego's mission, or kind of those like whimsical ideas that come through that really don't have any connection to anything. That's something that I'm letting go of a little bit, and really just getting clear on what I want to put energy and time into and what makes me feel good. Streamlining marketing, services, and offers. So that will all change, and really just trying to deepen how everything actually goes. Because this year, and I don't know about you, it feels like I've had an idea. I've been scrambling to create all of the content around it, create copy, post it, launch, all in with like 7 days. And that is just so energetically draining. And then I feel like I don't have enough time to like fully pour myself into my clients. So that's all going to change. And I'm really just going to be focusing on a couple of modalities of marketing and putting my content out there.
I love that. I really love what you said as well about, the quantity of time that you're putting in doesn't reflect your impact, because I think that a lot of people can relate to that, and not just people that work a corporate job as well, but people that might have like, I don't know, multiple children and they're trying to run a business, or just have different responsibilities that are not involved directly with their business. I think that people can feel a real sense of disappointment in themselves for not showing up, and almost that feeling of like, oh, I don't want to be left behind in this space. I don't want to be like not have the time to put in, and then like, I don't know, but for me, sometimes I'm like, oh my God, if I don't keep up and keep scrambling, I'm just going to be like irrelevant, I should say, which is ridiculous. Like, it's so stupid to think, but it's just I don't know, I feel like that's just that part of our brain that clicks in that is trying to tell us and bring us down. But I really love that, because it's so true. It really doesn't define our impact on people.
Yeah.
Because look at how many people in this space that are just making so much noise but zero impact, and they're showing up every single day in the space, just putting out this like almost like this white noise, and it's not really doing anything. But I feel like for someone like yourself who has such passion and such like a unique way of, stepping into this space and being who you are, I think like you don't even need to worry about the quantity of time that you're here, because every single time you're showing up, you're shifting people. People are like feeling you and like seeing you and just really taking a piece of you as well and carrying that with them. So I think that's really important, not just for you to acknowledge, but also anyone who's listening as well that might feel that push and pull of wanting to be here all the time, but also having other responsibilities, and like you have other goals in your life as well. Like you are actually passionate about your work as a financial planner and your corporate job as well, because you actually get so much from it. Like you love learning about that side.
Yeah.
So I think that that's like the healthiest thing to hear someone say, that they like, I can fucking do both.
Yes.
No, I'm not going to get left behind. Like, I can do both. I can do it all. Like, it's, yeah, I feel like just letting that rest in your chest a little bit longer and really feeling into what that actually means. It's just amazing.
Yeah, I feel that too. And I keep coming back to why I even started this business. And this stemmed from like health things that came up a couple of months ago. Is like, I actually started this business to have a creative outlet, one, to share my purpose and mission, but also create some financial freedom in my life and in my family's life. And if I can't create my lifestyle the way that I want with my business existing, what is even the point? Like, if it's not supporting me as much as I'm supporting it, there is a misalignment in values and energy output. And that's really something that I'm just so passionate about teaching other people, is like, you can coexist in multiple different avenues and containers, and they can all thrive. Like, I want to be able to pursue everything and figure it out along the way, but I also want to be smart about this too. And I see the potential in all of them, but you kind of have to be a little bit like cutthroat, right? With what you're actually putting your energy and attention into. And that's like for you, with how much energy and time you're actually outputting in your own business right now, you can really see how much that takes away from other things in your life that are important. Like, for me, it's my health and like moving my body. That's something I really let go of this year, and I'm getting back into it now. But that comes with a really hard decision to show up less in your business.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my goodness. So it's funny, but I'm also not surprised that we've both struggled with the same sort of thing this year when it comes to health and like not filling our own cup in other ways, in other avenues, and just trying to put more and more energy into our businesses. But then like we're probably wondering like, why do I not feel better? I'm putting all this time into this space, but it's like, well, you're still not doing that one thing that's for you. It's like, what do you do that is for you? And for me, prior to starting this business, or even when I was like just starting this business, I would literally like go to the gym every single morning and train and move my body like every weekday. I would be at the gym before I started work. Like I would drop my youngest off at daycare at the time and would go into the gym for an hour every day. And then obviously like things got busier. So then I would go like 3 or 4 times a week, but I was still filling my cup because that is the way that I release my energy. And I didn't know that at the time. So funny. Until I actually stopped doing that when I moved down here to Sydney. Like I had to leave like, you know, that gym environment that I felt comfortable in, that I felt like I had a family there. And I'm like, I've got a bit of social anxiety since moving here. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't want to join a gym. I don't know anyone. Like, so I haven't moved my body. And like, sometimes I'll go for walks, but that's just not enough for me to release energy. And it's only just like hit me on the head I felt it build up like the last month or 2. And I'm like, I know what I have to do. I feel like I've been in a funk like for 2 years now. And I'm like, I need to be giving back to myself and it not be in the form of this business. It needs to be something that I just do for me, whether that's, you know, cutting out work for like the first hour or so in my day and having a healthy meal or nourishing my body or doing something like for my self-care or just moving my body. So that's actually something that is a really good reminder for me. And that's what I'm going to be bringing into my own time and my energy for next year as well, is just giving back to myself.
Yeah, it's bloody hard. Like,
So hard.
Especially when you're so passionate about your business, you're so like in love with your clients and in love with being able to support them in what you're doing. It's really hard to create that space for yourself because truly we love the work that we're doing, but like we have to look after ourselves too. And I reckon I would bet you $100 that you go back to the gym and you feel so much better about raising your prices, because that inherently is that feedback is telling yourself that I'm worthy of creating time for myself and worthy of like giving myself what I desire. And this isn't just for you, it's for everybody listening. Like this is one of the hardest lessons to learn in business. And I think it's really important to have that period of time where you just completely devote yourself to your business and you learn as much as you possibly can and you follow that desire and that passion. But there comes a point in time where that decision has to be made around creating more space for yourself and really getting a little bit smarter about the way that you're actually managing everything. And I think that's kind of what we're both stepping into. And as a heads up for everybody, we will be taking quite a long break off the podcast at the beginning of the year because we really want to integrate everything in a deeper way. And that's another thing that, like, I think we've both taught each other is realizing that consistency isn't always the most important thing in business and on social media and in marketing. It's like, you really have to take care of yourself. So
do. It's such a struggle too, because I mean, like all else aside, like just putting everything to the side and just being real, raw and honest, like making money feels good as well. Like, let's just be honest, making money feels good. So I think about it and I'm like, well, I could be like doing like I could be working as soon as I get up and drop the kids off and making that money. But then like having that thing in the back of your head, like, oh no, if you take time out and go to the gym or you go for a walk, then that cuts off like a big portion of your morning. That cuts off like your total work time. You'll be making less money. So it's like that weighing up like what really is important to you, but then realizing that if you don't fill your own cup, when you do show up in your business, regardless of how much money you're making or you're not making, you're still going to feel like shit. And I have felt like shit, like for a really, really long time. Obviously, I've had like ups and downs, but majority, if I look back at like the last 2 years, I just have not felt like confident in myself, in my body, in my energy, compared to what I know that I can. And it's so funny. Like I've even like looked at gone into my archived stories and stuff of my page and like scrolled back to like some stories that I've posted like 2 or 3 years ago. And I'm like, who is this girl? Like, who is this bad bitch? Because I want to be her. Like, I'm like, man, you're so confident. And she just like commanded the room and just like was just, I look at myself back then and I'm in awe of myself. And I'm like, okay, well, if that's not telling me something, Aleisha, I don't know what is. Like, you need to shift something because, yeah, that was just really big, like, wow moment.
I love that. She still exists though. Like, she is still there ready to come out inside of you. And I think these 2 years have taught you a lot. You have to be kind to yourself, right? Like, we all go through seasons of shifting priorities and things have changed. Like, you've had to move that, and that's really affected both your energy and your mental world. So that's something that you can't really change. So cut yourself some slack, girl.
Yeah. I am excited though to just put it aside and give back to myself.
Yeah, totally.
I think we'll both see a huge difference once we prioritize that.
Yeah. And I really want to be able to like connect the dots between making money and being healthy. Like, that would be such a healing journey, not just like for me, but for my lineage too. And that's something that I really want to like put as an intention next year, because you being so vulnerable and saying that, I totally feel that. And when I started going to the gym again, and this was a huge fear of mine of like, well, this is like time I could be putting towards making money. And I think that's why I really want to be strategic about how I'm talking about my business and communicating about it and really streamlining it, because I don't want to just feel like I'm running on a treadmill and I have to always be in my business to earn money. And there is a big connection for me around making money and impacting people. It's not always there, but there is a deep connection for me in my business. And so I want to streamline that in the healthiest way possible. But I think it's going to come with like a jolt to the system, right? Because you're unraveling so many preconditioned beliefs around, one, showing up, like time for money, two, and yeah, it'll be interesting to see how we move through that next year.
Will be really interesting. I am excited for us, and I'm excited for everyone else who's watching this who is in a similar position and going through that. Just that transformation that needs to occur. It's not even something that I want to change. It's something that I know has to change for me to keep having the sustainability to continue on in this space. Because I know that if I don't, then I'm not gonna have the energy to, and it's not gonna live on. And I want this to live on. So
yeah,
I'm really looking forward to it. I know that this is so cliche as well, but I fucking love a new year. Like, I know that some people like really live on that like start of the new astrological year, which is fine. But for me, it's like there's nothing, me, a Virgo, there is nothing that feels like fresh and squeaky clean and like just like a blank canvas, and knowing that this motherfucking year is about to finish and we're going to be getting a brand shiny new one to do with what we please. And it's kind of, for me, knowing that the start of a new year is coming towards me very, very fast. We're a few months away. that really helps me to get my head straight. And I know that stepping into that, I'm one of those people, it's like when I set an intention in a new year, it's like, you best believe I'll be sticking to that.
Yes.
Like I have to, because it's a new year, you know? So I need it. Like I feel like I need it. So I'm excited.
Me too. I love that. So you're definitely somebody who sets like New Year's resolutions or New Year's intentions?
I do intentions. I feel like, I don't know. I'm just like with resolutions, I'm like, fuck, the past is the past. Can't do anything about it. Let's just set some solid intentions. Yeah. I like to set myself like almost like boundaries and goals with like to stick to and like a new, yeah.
Me too. I love that. I'm excited. And I think being honest about where we've been and what we're moving into is so important to be able to really step into those intentions. And as scary as they are, like sharing them, especially on a podcast that's like up there forever, like you guys, this is actually terrifying, but I think it's so important that we do this because it's just gonna, I don't know, weave everything together in a really beautiful way. So thanks for being here with me.
Yeah, thank you. I feel like we need to listen to this episode back in 12 months' time.
Yes. Yes.
Just to reflect.
Well, thank you guys for listening, and we are sending you guys so much love. We'd love, as always, any feedback, reviews. It really helps us be found by new people and also just get a little bit of reflection on how you guys are finding the podcast. But we will see you next week. Until then, have a good weekend and week.
Bye.
Bye.